Aegon the First Targaryen, who's also known as Aegon the Conqueror, was the first Lord of the Seven Kingdoms and King on the Iron Throne. He conquered 6 of the 7 kingdoms during the conquest, and he was also the founder of the ruling dynasty, House Targaryen. Aegon was said to be tall, broad-shouldered, and powerful in appearance, with purple eyes and short-cut silver gold hair. He was very charismatic and commanding. During his conquest, he typically wore a shirt of black scales into battle and wielded Blackfire, a sword made of Valyrian steel. His crown was a simple circlet of Valyrian steel set with big square cut rubies. Aegon was seen as the enigma, even to his contemporaries. He was a solitary person whose only friend was Orys Baratheon, who was widely believed to be his bastard half-brother. The king was a great warrior who only rode his dragon Balerion for battle or travel and never entered tourneys. Aegon remained faithful to his sisters and left governance in their hands and only took command when necessary. While he was harsh with those who defied him, he was generous to those that bent the knee. Aegon is not considered to have been particularly pious, and according to a semi-canon source, he followed the faith of the Seven only for political reasons. Aegon was a dragon dreamer according to another semi-canon source. Early in his life, Aegon was born on Dragonstone in 27 BC to Lord Aeron Targaryen and Lady Valena Valerion. He had an older sister, Visenya, and a younger sister, Rhaenys. According to Valyrian and Targaryen tradition, Aegon married within the family. However, instead of taking only one sister to wife, as what was common at the time, he married both of them. It is believed that he married Visenya out of duty, because as his elder sister, he needed to wed her to secure his succession, but he married Rhaenys out of his love for her. Aegon had claimed that dragon Balerion for his own prior to his marriage. When Pentos and Tyrosh asked Aegon for his aid in their struggle against Volantis, Aegon, Lord of Dragonstone, flew to Pentos atop of Balerion to meet with the Prince of Pentos and the city's magisters. Aegon next flew to Lys, where he burned a Volantine fleet before it could attempt to invade the city. Shortly after, Aegon returned back to Dragonstone. During the conquest, as the Century of Blood came to an end, Aegon's interest in Westeros grew. He had previously visited the citadel of Old Town and the arbor in the Kingdom of the Reach with his elder sister Visenya, and he might also have visited Lannisport in the Kingdom of the Rock, according to some sources. He had a huge wooden table made, cut in the shape of Westeros, with a map of the 7 kingdoms of Westeros painted upon the surface. No borders were painted upon the painted table, however, as Aegon believed it should be 1 realm instead of 7. The Storm King, Argilac Durrandon, reached out to Aegon, proposing a marriage between Aegon and his only daughter, Princess Argilla. All the lands east of the God's Eye, from the Trident to the Blackwater Rush, were offered as her dowry, although the lands did not belong to Argilac. His offer was an attempt to create a buffer between his own kingdom and that of Harrenhal, king of the Isles and the Rivers. Aegon spurned the offer, stating that he had no need for a third wife, and instead offered his close friend and rumored bastard half-brother Orys Baratheon as Argilla's husband instead, in return for lands. Insulted by this, Argilac cut off the hands of Aegon's envoy and sent those back to Dragonstone, upon which Aegon called his counselors together. After 6 days of consulting, Aegon sent forth ravens to every lord in Westeros, declaring his claim to the throne. Aegon landed with his army on the eastern coast of Westeros at the mouth of the Blackwater, where he constructed the Aegon Fort, which is now known as King's Landing. Houses Rosby and Stokeworth surrendered to his sisters quickly, and houses Darkland and Mooton were quickly defeated in Aegon's first test. Before the defeated lords gathered to the new city, Aegon was crowned with a Valyrian steel circlet by Visenya and hailed as king of all Westeros by Rhaenys. He also displayed the 3-headed dragon symbol of House Targaryen for the first time ever. The Targaryen siblings departed the new city, with Aegon marching northwest into the Riverlands to confront Harrenhal. Edmund Tully, Lord of Riverrun, declared for Aegon and led the River Lords in revolt against the ruling Ironborn. When Harren refused to yield Harrenhal, Aegon attacked the gigantic castle with Balerion, and House Horror was extinguished with the burning of Harrenhal. The next day, Aegon named Edmund as Lord Paramount of the Trident. Meanwhile, Rhaenys and Orys defeated the Durandons in the last storm, while Visenya fought the Arryns and secured Crackclaw Point. After regathering at Stony Sept, the Targaryen siblings advanced against the larger host of the two kings. The Targaryen dragons Balerion, Meraxes, and Vhagar allowed Aegon to achieve a great victory at the Field of Fire, which resulted in the death of Mern Gardner and the surrender of Loren Lannister, King of the Rock. Aegon then marched for Highgarden, where he named Harlan Tyrell as Lord Paramount of the Mander after the castle's surrender. The Targaryens again reunited to face the host of Torrhen Stark, King of the North, but Torrhen wisely chose to kneel to Aegon along the Trident instead of fighting a battle. Visenya returned to the Vale, where she achieved the surrender of the Arryns, while Rhaenys flew to Dorne in an unsuccessful mission to the Martells. Aegon meanwhile marched to Old Town, which was surrendered to him by Lord Manfred Hightower upon the advice of the High Septon. Within the Starry Sept, the High Septon declared Aegon to be the King of the Andals, the Rhoynar, and the First Men, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms, and Protector of the Realm for the first time ever. Aegon chose to date the beginning of his reign from the day the High Septon anointed him in Old Town. Rather than ruling from Old Town or Dragonstone, Aegon chose to make his seat King's Landing, the new settlement growing around the Aegon fort. He also took the swords of his defeated enemies, which then forged them into the Iron Throne. Aegon began what would become known as the Small Council, as well as that of the Hand of the King, with Lord Orys Baratheon becoming his first hand. Aegon's first established law was the King's Peace, which forbade conflict in the realm without the leave of the Iron Throne. Aegon treated the defeated lords with respect and allowed each region to retain its own laws and customs, and for the lords to retain both the right of the pit and gallows. Aegon often traveled within the realm with 6 maesters who educated him on each of the region's local customs and the history. During Aegon's conquest, the lords of the Three Sisters declared their independence and crowned Lady Marla Sunderland as their queen. Following his coronation at Old Town, Aegon, the new commander, commanded Lord Torrhen Stark, the new Warden of the North, to end the rebellion, and he sent Queen Visenya on Vhagar to accompany the Northern army. At the sight of them, the sistermen abandoned their queen and installed her younger brother Steffon as their new lord. Steffon soon bent the knee, swore his fealty to House Arryn, and re-entered the King's Peace, ending the rebellion of the sistermen. In 2AC, Aegon turned his attention to the Iron Islands, where the Ironborn had been fighting for 2 years over the kingship. Leading the invasion, Aegon landed on the Great Wick with Balerion to deal with the contenders. Aegon personally cut down Quarren Volmark with Blackfire, while the priest King Lodos walked into the sea, drowning himself. The other contenders quickly bent the knee. Aegon ignored the suggestions of making the Ironborn vassals to the Tullys, as well as the suggestion to exterminate the Ironborn by Dragonflame. Instead, he allowed the Ironborn to name their own Lord Paramount, for which the Ironborn chose Vicon Greyjoy. The First Dornish War. In 3AC, Aegon turned his attention back on Dorne, the only kingdom remaining unconquered. He first decided to try and bring Dorne under the rule through diplomacy. After a year of negotiations and no progress to show for it, though, he decided to take Dorne by force. In 4AC, Aegon launched a new invasion. Though initially the conquest of Dorne seemed to succeed, it unraveled quickly, and the First Dornish War prolonged and lasted for 9 years, and knew many deaths and tragedies. One of these tragedies was the capture of Aegon's friend and Hand of the King, Lord Orys Baratheon. Following his release from 2 years of captivity, Orys returned home lacking a sword hand, as did the men who had been taken captive with him. Aegon, intent on revenge, released his dragons and burned the castles of the defiant Dornish lords. The greatest loss he faced was the death of Queen Rhaenys Targaryen at Hellholt in 10 AC, when Meraxes fell from the sky after a shot from a scorpion took the dragon in the eye. The 2 years that followed are known as the Dragon's Wrath, as Aegon's wrath knew no bounds. Aegon and Visenya placed bounties on the heads of the Dornish lords after Rhaenys' death, and in the turn of the and in turn, the Dornish put bounties on the Targaryens. Aegon was attacked 3 times, with his guards saving his life twice. Visenya also defended her brother twice with Dark Sister, her sword. This led to the forming of the elite royal bodyguard known as the Kingsguard, with Visenya personally choosing the men herself. The attempted conquest of Dorne was called to an end in 13 AC after a visit from Princess Doraya Martell, the daughter of Nymar, the ruling prince. Doraya brought the skull of Meraxes and a letter with her, which was given to Aegon. After reading the letter, Aegon flew on Balerion to Dragonstone. He returned the next day and agreed to a peace between Dorne and the Seven Kingdoms. Aegon kept good relations with Princess Doraya. He visited Sunspear with his eldest son, Prince Aenys, in 23 AC to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the peace between the Iron Throne and Dorne. The remaining 24 years of Aegon's reign were peaceful, so much so that the last 2 decades of his reign were later called the Dragon's Peace. He spent much of his time consolidating his power by traveling through the Seven Kingdoms and building his capital at King's Landing. Aegon devoted half of every year to make these royal progresses. During his rule, he treaded carefully with the faith of the Seven, so they would not oppose him. Aegon built a grand sept on Visenya's Hill and agreed to the construction of an even grander one known as the Sept of Remembrance. King's Landing initially lacked walls, and the likely reason is that the Targaryens believed no one would attack a city with dragons. However, when he learned about a pirate fleet sacking tall trees towns in the Summer Isles in 19 AC, Aegon came to the realization that he and Visenya were not always in the city, and as such, he ordered the construction of massive walls to be built around the city. After the year 33 AC, the royal progress continued, but were now made by his son Aenys and his wife Alyssa, while the aging king remained at home. By this point, late in his reign, Aegon decided that the ramshackle Aegon Fort was not a suitable seat for a king, so the structure was torn to the ground in 35 AC. Aegon moved his family and court back to Dragonstone, while he commanded the construction of what would later be called the Red Keep. Visenya was placed in charge of the building of the Red Keep, and it was rumored that Aegon had done this so that he would not have to suffer her presence on Dragonstone. The Iron Throne remained at the build site instead of Dragonstone, since it was too heavy to be moved. In 33 AC, Aegon made his final progress throughout Westeros, during which he visited Winterfell. Afterward, Prince Aenys and his wife Alyssa made the progresses in Aegon's stead. In 37 AC on Dragonstone, while telling his 2 eldest grandsons Aegon and Viserys the tales of his conquest at the Painted Table, Aegon died from a stroke at the age of 63. Aegon was cremated on Dragonstone, and his funeral pyre was set aflame by Vhagar. Blackfire was burned along with him, but later retrieved from the pyre by Maegor. Although his reign had largely been peaceful, many of his subjects desired to go back to the days of old, when there were still 7 kingdoms. Others wanted vengeance for the deaths of their loved ones in the wars, and yet others saw the Targaryens as abominations. Because of this, the tumultuous reigns of both Aenys I and Maegor were filled with battle and chaos. Because Aegon had wielded Blackfire, possession of the Valyrian steel sword has been seen as granting legitimacy to its holders. The Red Keep is situated atop Aegon's Hill in King's Landing. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I always find Aegon the First Targaryen very, very interesting. Let me know who you want to see me do a video on next. Have a great day.